topic. The topic of discussion today is tax and other implications of budget 2019, and we hope to cover all you need to know to offer your small business clients up-to-date advice. So it's a bit of a big promise, but hopefully we can achieve most of that. So let's get our guests to appear too. I'm going to ask our two guests, Mohammed Kamdar and Joseph Willow, to switch on the videos so that we can see them too. By the way, my name is Christoph Oosthuizen. I'm the host of this webinar series. I'm from the EPI, and we're assisted by Carl Venter in the back to make sure that all the things run smooth in the webinar, and also to make sure that we can feed the webinar to the BASA Facebook page. So that's another way of actually viewing the webinar. But yeah, so Mohammed, welcome. Joseph, welcome. Mohammed is associated with BASA-EPI. Most of our members may know that as another professional body in the space of business support, but specifically his job relates to the tax self-help tech. So his day-to-day job, Mohammed, you can correct me if I have it wrong, but is to support members in the tax queries that they need to address and the advice they need to get their clients. And you've been doing that for about 8 years. So as professional tax practitioner, technician, and specialist, you're kind of very well qualified to give us guidance here today in terms of the tax regime, the tax framework, and how that relates to our clients. And then, of course, Joseph, our good friend from BASA, all of us know you very well by now. Stakeholder relations and education is kind of your arm in BASA. So welcome today. Today you're wearing a bit of a different hat as the owner of JMT Executive Tax and Accounting Services, I think is the company's name. You can also correct us if I'm wrong. That's correct. So welcome today, and also looking forward to the perspective that you'll give on what it takes to be a advisor to businesses needing tax support. So let's see the second half of the webinar we would like to dedicate to questions and answers. So let's get going with the webinar itself. So, but before we do so, I'm going to launch a poll quickly, just asking you a question, and you'll see the poll window appearing there on the portion of your professional advising time that you spend on tax or financial related advice to your clients. So you can select there, it's all your time, more than 3/4 of your time, between half and 3/4 of your time, between a quarter and half, less than a half, or none. You know, sort of. So just select there the time, your professional time that you spend supporting your clients. What portion of that time is related to tax and financial related advice? I see there's quite a bit of voting happening there. So it looks like you guys have found the right button to click. As it is, it looks like between a quarter and a half, in fact, less than a quarter, the biggest portion. So by far the most on the webinar is less than half of their time. In fact, about a third is less than 25%. So let's give you guys just another second or two to vote, and then we'll be able to close the poll and have the results viewed there. So Mohammed and Joseph, it looks like our people, there's no one that's, there are a few in fact that are doing no financial reporting, but most of us are less than half of the time that we spend with our clients are financial. So no one is a full-time all the time. There are 2 people in the room that are spending all their time just on financial and tax advising. So just to give us a sense of who's in the room. In fact, you guys can't see, I can share the results with you too on the app if you want to see it there, but otherwise Carl has kindly showed it us too on screen. Okay, so now let's, Mohammed, if you're ready, in fact, I'll unmute you so that you can speak, or you can unmute yourself perhaps. If you can find the button there on the left bottom of the screen, there you are. So you've got some things that you've can show us in terms of the slides and so on, and you and Carl have compared notes. So let me hand over to you, and I think Carl is going to run us through the slides that is giving us some more information around what the things are that you're going to tell us.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine.
I don't see the slide on my screen, but do I control it from here, or are you going to control it?
So Carl will page forward for you. In fact, it is showing. So there's another window. Perhaps you don't have that window open, but so you don't see the slide in the second window.
So I need to go to the next slide. But anyway, thank you for the warm welcome, and thank you for the invitation. I'm sure SAIPA is very pleased that you took this initiative, and I'm sure that SAIPA would like to see a continuing relationship between BASA and SAIPA. So I'm happy to be here. But now I thought it'd be good if you go on to the next slide so I can start my conversation, because it'll give the audience, here we are, that's very good. Thank you very much for this. Basically, government and even SARB is very committed to give small business and micro businesses some tax relief. It's to enable the small businesses to grow by having less tax liabilities. So there is a commitment from government, and that is why you have basically 3 tax regimes for companies. And I'll give you the criteria, what are the requirements. So it works like this: if you don't fall into the category of micro business or SBC, then you fall into the main category of company. So if you don't belong to the other 2, then you fall automatically to companies. But the tax relief offered by SBC and even micro businesses are quite generous, and they do demonstrate government commitment to less tax liability for businesses that are small and still developing. I just need some confirmation. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine. You can proceed. The slides are showing well, and we can hear you fine.
Okay, great. So I'm going to discuss what is called SBC, the Small Business Corporation. So like I mentioned earlier on, that if you don't belong to the SBC or the micro business regime, you automatically fall into the company regime, normal company, and you'll pay 28%. So let's start with the requirement of SBC. Now, who can be an SBC? You must be a company. That means individuals cannot fall into this business tax regime if you are an individual. You have to be a company, and your taxable income must be less than 20 million, and your investment income must not exceed 20% of the total revenue and receipts. Of course, the other requirement is that in this company, shareholders must not have shares in another company. And the last important requirement is as well, the SBC should not be a personal service provider, but there is a way to exit out of a personal service provider regime if you have 3 employees who are not connected to the companies or shareholders of the company. So they must be unrelated. And you have 3 more employees, then you won't be a PSP, and you will meet one of the requirements of meeting a SBC requirement. So I'm just going to go on quickly with a short introduction of what's the micro business, and then I'm going to go on to the next item on the agenda will be a status. What are the status of all of these entities? So to be a micro business, you can be an individual, you can be a company. And your turnover must be less than R1 million. Now, please be very careful. I use the word turnover, but when it comes to SBC, I use the term taxable income. So I like to believe that the audience is aware of the difference of the two terminology. So when it comes to micro business, you must have a turnover of less than R1 million, and your financial year must start 1st of March, the same year as individuals. And of course, the entity or the shareholder must have shares in other company, and the entity must not be a PSP or a labor broker, the same as the SBC. The difference is the turnover must be less than R1 million. Now, I will talk quickly about the status. You see, for you to be an SBC, you have to conduct a test every year at the end of the financial year, and it can be a company, but it cannot be an individual. So that company has to do a test to see whether they meet the requirement we spoke about annually at the end of the financial year. The same with micro business. You have to review the situation every year to ensure you are belonging to that regime. So will Mr. Carroll please move on to the next slide, if that's possible? So what are the main differences between these two regimes that we speak about? Now, when it comes to provisional tax, you know all companies are provisional taxpayers. And the rate for companies is 28%. But with SBC, you still have to pay provisional tax based at the rate of 28%, the company tax rate. Because midway through the year, you don't know yet whether you met the requirement to be the SBC. You only know that at the end of the financial year when you're doing the financials for the company, whether the company has met all those requirements we spoke about. So the provisional tax rate will be paid at 28%. But now, with micro businesses, you have to register upfront. If you meet all the requirements, you register upfront to say you're a micro business, and you pay the tax rate as per the table that we're going to speak about later on. But when it comes to provisional tax for SBC, you have to pay the company tax rate based on taxable income at 28%. So the basis of calculating your tax for these three regimes are as follows. When it comes to companies, it's your taxable income. The same with SBC, but the tax rates are different for SBC. It's based on a table, which we'll show you in a few minutes. But for micro business, we're using taxable turnover. For sure, whatever income or money that's coming in to any of those three entities, you're going to enter them in your gross income. For a company, yes. Whatever receipt or income come into the company, you enter the gross income. With SBC, the same. It'll be part of your gross income. But the same will not apply to a micro business because it's based on taxable turnover. So the concept of gross income for taxable purposes becomes irrelevant for micro business. Now, what deductions are the three entities allowed? For the company, you get a general deduction. It's a standard general deduction that's applicable to companies. It's also applicable to SBC. But when it comes to micro businesses, you don't need that because all you're interested in is in your taxable turnover. So you don't have to keep record of your expenses for micro businesses. That's where the difference is. You have to keep record of deduction for a company and an SBC, but not for a micro business because we are interested in the taxable turnover. When it comes to allowances, they're available for companies, and with SBC, we'll see later on, you get what is called an accelerated depreciation allowance. So the allowances per year is far more than normal capital allowances that's available to a company. But we don't need that for micro businesses for one simple reason is we are interested in taxable turnover. For a company, when it comes to CGT, the normal rule will apply as per the 8th schedule in your Income Tax Act. The same with SBC. But when it comes to micro businesses, when you're disposing your assets, the proceeds must not be more than 1.5 million rand if you are disposing an asset of a micro business. The total proceeds over a 3-year period should not exceed 1.5 million rand. If you do so, it means you're no longer a micro business. Because you must understand, a micro business is a regime for very small companies, what is better known as subsistence companies. They just make enough profit to maintain themselves. So they're incredibly small entities. So they get a very special dispensation, and we are only interested in the taxable turnover. So if they have very large disposal, it simply means they're actually big and not small. So their disposal will not exceed more than 1.5 million rand over a 3-year period. When it comes to PAYE, a company will pay PAYE on a monthly basis, the same with SBC. But a small company will pay its PAYE twice a year, twice in a tax year, when they submitted their taxable turnover return. When it comes to dividend tax, if the company issues cash dividend, they will pay to the shareholder, but the company will withhold the dividend withholding tax. But the liabilities for cash dividend and dividend tax reside with the shareholder. The shareholder is actually paying the dividend tax, but the company withholds the dividend tax holder on behalf of the shareholder. However, when it comes to dividend specie, a non-cash dividend, the company is liable for the dividend tax. And it won't be a withholding tax because the company will not be withholding the dividend tax in favor of the shareholder. The company is liable for dividend should it make dividend payable to a shareholder in a form of non-cash. The same can be said about an SBC, a small business corporation. Remember, a small business corporation is a company. However, when it comes to micro businesses, the rules are different. If that small business entity pays dividend that does not exceed 200,000 Rand for that financial year, then it will be exempt from dividend withholding tax. So very quickly now, I want to go on to the next slide. If Mr. Carroll politely move on to the next slide. Thank you for that. So very quickly, here the story is. Company will pay a rate of tax at 28%. And these are the rates for the SBC from the 1st of April 2019 and until the end of March 2020 in respect of any financial year ending 1st of April. So you see now, if you are a SBC and you meet the requirement, then you will not pay any tax if your taxable income does not exceed 79,000. But if it does, and it's less than 365,000, can you see your tax liabilities are much less? It's 7% of the amount that exceeds 79,000. So you don't pay 28% if you fall in the regime of SBC. Now, it's also become a lot better if you exceed 365,000, but not exceeding 550,000, then that's the rate you're going to be paying tax, but it's far less than 28%. So you're only going to pay a tax at 28% if it exceeds 550,000, if your taxable income exceeds 550,000. So that is a very generous tax situation. And now very quickly we can move on to the next one, to the next slide. So it's equally generous, but this is the one that ended at 31st of March this year. So if you have an assessment ending in that period, 1st of April 2018 until 31st of March this year, this is your tax liabilities. So this is as per the table released last year. So basically that is all I have to say, but I want to move very quickly to the next slide to just show you the turnover tax rate. Now this will explain to you how generous it is. We're not looking at taxable income, we're looking at taxable turnover. So if your taxable turnover is less than that amount of 335,000, the micro business would pay no tax. And should it exceed that amount and less than 500,000, that's your tax liability. 1% of the amount that exceeds 335,000. So you can see it's very generous. And the next table is also quite clear what the tax liability is should we exceed 500,000. So I'm going to leave that conversation there because I have very little time. But I think I can expect question. What is the meaning of taxable turnover when it comes to micro businesses? I'll leave that portion for the end. So do I still have more time, or can I round it off, or what should I do next? I need some guidance from the panelists.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, that's very important and pointed information for us to note in terms of the options that our clients that are smaller, specifically for micro businesses and small business corporations that would fall into that category may have, and of course the benefits that they have, Mohammed. I think let's move on and save time for questions. Now, by the way, I'm sure there are questions. In fact, we got email replies from the registration asking about VAT and so on. So we haven't spoken about VAT at all now, but VAT is also quite an important element, of course, in the tax regime. So we were fortunate to note that there was no change. Well, maybe we were hopeful that it will fall back to 14%, you know, sort of, but that maybe have been unrealistic considering where we are at as a country. But there were quite a few things that stayed the same, you know, sort of including this regime in the 2019 budget. So same tax levels, everything the same, but maybe we haven't noted properly in the past yet exactly how it works. So if you have any questions in terms of advising your clients around that, then maybe it is now opportune. You've got a specialist in the room to post that, and you must just click on the Q&A button, and it will open the questions window for you to post your questions there. So anyone can post the questions. And so, Mohammed, if you don't mind, then we move on to the next segment in the webinar, and we'll come back to you with the questions when people are starting to post them, if that's okay with you.
Do I unmute? Do I mute myself?
Yeah, you can mute and you can mute yourself now. That's the best, of course, always. But in the meantime, or Carl can mute you if you can't find the button. In the meantime, perhaps we can go do another poll just to get a sense of what kind of services are being offered by people in the room. So we are all business advisors. By the way, I see there's some questions starting to come in. So great, guys, keep adding the questions. Is it time for you to have the questions that you may have answered by an expert? So we've put up the poll there for you to vote on in terms of which areas you offer advice on, and how do you ensure your continuous professional development on these services. So by the way, you can select more than one because some of them are unrelated. So you can select all of them if all of them apply to you. Not necessarily that they would, but you can select a few of those options as they apply to you. So are you predominantly a tax and financial advisor, or are you predominantly a general business advisor who also provides some financial advice? Is it equal for you in terms of the time that you spend on it? How do you position yourself as an expert? Have you completed the certificated tax qualification, or do you improve your tax advice through just reading, maybe going online? Do you improve your tax advice by being advised by more experienced tax advisors, so you've got someone you can ask? Do you improve your tax and financial advice through support from other advisors, you know, sort of in the network, perhaps some of the people in the room here that you may put a question to? Or do you predominantly base your coaching on your own work experience? And some may not offer tax and other financial advice at all. So just select the one that's most applicable, or the ones that are most applicable to you, maybe more than one or several. And it looks like most of us are predominantly business advisors and also offering some support in terms of financial and tax. And then we're improving our tax and financial advice through support from other advisors. That's very interesting. Some are still voting. I'm going to close the poll now, so we can see that most of us are getting from others business advisor support, some of us through reading and so on too. And it looked like most of us are predominantly general business advisors that also do some tax and financial advice. So to do tax and financial advice, of course, you must make sure that you stay abreast of the developments and that you understand your clients well. So maybe, Jayanti, if we can ask you to switch on your video, or Carl can help you in the background. And you know, sort of you in your business side, you guys work a lot with small, medium-sized businesses and supporting them in their financial and tax issues. So what can you enlighten us on, and what advice can you give business advisors in taking on that task? Carl will switch on the presentation for you just now, so everyone can see what your slides show too. But maybe you can start talk while he's setting it up. Oh, there it is.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Chris. And may I thank all the participants who have joined us for this morning's webinar. And I must also thank small business corporations so well. And the who are predominantly business advisors to know about these things, especially these are very basic tax requirements for small businesses, and that's where we have as BASA a bias of assisting SMMEs. Now, to that end, we have agreed that the seminar, the webinar that we're going to have today will be focused on showing our members the tax and other implications of the budget as to how it's going to affect them as small business advisors, and various aspects of tax that needs to be known by our members. So we do encourage, as you will see from the slides, to attend workshops, to attend webinars that are going to be relevant for them to advise SMMEs. You do not have to call an expert for this basic tax knowledge that it's available with the information that we have just received from Mr. Mohammed Kamdam. Now, my presentation is going to cover the following 6 areas, which I believe, and this is not covering everything, it's just to assist our business advisors to also have a wide basic knowledge of taxation for their clients. You do not have to go and spend more money from the fee that they are paying you to acquire additional services. While if you are indeed not competent, it is a requirement of any professional body that you need to get an expert to assist you. In terms of the table of contents, it's a 6 fundamental prescripts of which the budget is built. Now, this is from the minister as to exactly, as we are part of the society, being a business advisors, we are also part of the society. We need to understand and know how is this going to affect us and our members and our SMME small business, as we've heard now from Mr. Kamda, as to the incentives that are available for our members and even businesses. And the second item is basic tax knowledge required by a business advisor. So we're not saying that you should be an expert. We're saying there is basic knowledge that you require in terms of topics. So when you are invited for workshops like this, and I need to emphasize to our members that this webinar was a deliberate effort by BASA that we want our members to have what we call continued professional development, and whereby they cannot give the institute a reason that they don't have the money to attend the workshops. So this 1 hour that we give once a month is really to assist our members to get closer to the topics that are relevant in advising SMMEs. I think I cannot emphasize that more than the way I've done now. And also the tax changes and how to manage them. And we need to also assist our members to understand that there's a difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. And it is when you are taking advantage of the law where you structure the affairs of your client in such that it's not a tax evasion, but an avoidance, because you are using the law. And we need to emphasize to our members that remember that tax is the law, and that's why it changes regularly, because it is the law. And cases that are there, you need to study cases as well to understand tax. And the next topic is 2019 Budget Tax Guide, which we will go through it quickly as well, and the 2019 highlight, and all these are indeed on the tax guide. Before we go to the next one, if I can just finalize the last one. Thanks, Carol. Public benefit organization, PBOs, and trust, other taxes in brief. Now, we know that our members are also assisting NGOs, not-for-profit company, and also not-for-profit organizations, and trusts, and other various organizations that and including the church, which is under the spotlight now. So having this basic knowledge will assist you to give your clients appropriate advice that will help them in running their organizations and in growing them. We can go to the next slides. Carol, we can go to the next slides. Yes, and the 6 fundamental prescripts which the budget is built. The 2019 budget, this is the most difficult budget in our 25-year democracy. And you would agree that the minister came in during the term, and as we are facing the elections. And what is evident is the corruption that took place in the past 10 years. And that made it very difficult for the minister to work. And as it is, the minister had to look at achieving a higher rate of economic growth. And that is the focus, that under the circumstances, with all the looting that has taken place and all the challenges that because remember, South Africa, we are also playing in the international space. We are not a remote organization that is out there, or a country that is not involved in the global space. So we have to achieve that, and hence you hear the invitation of investors coming into the country and increasing tax collection. Now, this to be effected, increasing the tax collection, it's when our members and businesses are advised appropriately, because the idea here, if you are a tax consultant, you know that the idea is to advise your client to pay what we call it's a fair share of the taxes, not to pay 1 cent more, 1 cent less. That is what we do as tax consultants. And you as a business advisor, you need to advise your business that they must not pay a cent more nor a cent. Now, the government, with the new government, the new dawn, we know that they are saying that they are going to be looking at the expenditure, that it must be affordable. Remember that even with this budget, we have had to borrow. So we're going to be borrowing in order to finance the lifestyle of South Africans. And if we don't collect enough taxes, we will be facing what Greece faced about 2-3 years ago. So we need to do that, and stabilizing and reducing debt, which is very important, so that we don't have various models that will create a problem for businesses and paying more taxes. Reconfiguring state-owned enterprises. We are aware that the ESCOMs of this world, the SAA and SABC, which doesn't have a board as we speak, now that is also part of the tax regime in the country. Now, as a business advisor, we need to be involved in the space, to be thought leaders as well, to engage in these topics and managing the public sector wage bill. We are aware that employees who are above 55 are being encouraged to retire, to take early retirement, so that they can indeed leave opportunities for young people who are coming. And as well, because now these over the years, their salaries are quite high, and our wage bill in South Africa is so high that it's creating a problem. And if we have this higher wage bill and are not collecting enough taxes, this is going to be a problem. Now, these 6 fundamental prescripts are the ones that are going to be for the next year. We will be looking as to, when we measure government, as to how they have performed, especially the Minister of Finance, who I don't believe that he's going to be, he has indicated that he's not going to be coming back. So with the new cabinet that we're going to be having after May, we hope that the new minister and help us to comply as a country. We can go to the next slide. Yes, basic knowledge required by the business advisor. We believe that the basic and understanding of tax, it's what a business advisor needs to. And we are not expecting business advisors to be tax specialists. Basic knowledge will help a business advisor to give the clients savvy advice. So we are saying, understand this. And Mr. Mohammed has given us small business corporation, SBDC incentives and rebates. I will not even get into that. In fact, I was going to be very brief even in addressing that, but I'm so glad that he addressed it so well. And turnover tax and implication, which is also covered in terms of the macro. And maybe it is at this stage that we need to inform our members that if an entity, the day it hits a turnover of 83,333, in other words, it's over 1 million per annum. From that day, if you believe it's sustainable, that entity cannot be a macro enterprise, and it has to register for VAT, and that registration will refer to it as a compulsory. It's not a voluntary. Now, if your turnover does not exceed 1 million, you do not have to necessarily register for VAT, but you can register voluntarily for various reasons. The one other reason being your clients who want you to register so that they can also take advantage of VAT. Now, we're not going to get into the details, but you need to go and do your own research and study as to what would be the reasons for me to be forced by my client if my turnover does not exceed 1 million for me to register. The usage of the tax guide as amended annually. Now, annually, as we are going to be showing you, there's a tax guide that is issued by the receiver of revenue, by SARS. We would like our members to have a good understanding of that tax guide, because that is the information that will help you to assist your client to save on taxation. Because without that knowledge, you will not be able to advise your members appropriately. And who qualifies to be registered as a provisional taxpayer? You need to know that knowledge. Now, the minute you receive income from say, as a director, and you are not full-time employed, you are a provisional taxpayer. And also, there are various reasons why you should register as a provisional taxpayer. We need to look at that as to why you should register. The minute you are running a business and you are not registered with your employees for you to be paying your tax monthly, it is advisable that you register as a provisional taxpayer, where you will assess yourself 6 monthly and pay the necessary taxes, and your tax advisor can assist you with that regard. Treatment of dividend payable to individuals and companies, that was covered by Mr. Mohammed, where you have seen that the minute you declare dividend in a company, which is not a macro, where it speaks about less than 200,000. So in a company, when you declare dividends to another entity, it's tax exempt. But the minute the individuals in the company, the shareholders, if the directors declare dividend, and indeed it's accepted, and the shareholders have to be paid that dividend, there is that 20% that must be withheld by the company before it pays that dividend out. individuals and companies allowable deductions, and we have seen that in the SBDCs and companies, SBCs and companies, there is allowable deductions, which in the case of a macro company, you have to, you don't necessarily have to keep those records. Now, tax avoidance against tax evasion. I think earlier I've indicated that these are concepts that as you are planning your affairs of your clients, you need to understand that whatever you are doing is that legal, or it has gone beyond now the legal requirements, because tax avoidance is not necessarily illegal. You are looking at the loopholes within the law and advise your clients appropriately to take advantage of the law and have savings, tax savings as such. While tax evasion, it's where you are indeed even doing illegal things, where you receive refunds that you were not entitled to because you have understated your input VAT or input, you have your whatever information your cost, you have overstated that, where you overstate your input VAT so that it suppresses your output, and as a result, you then have to receive a refund from SARS. That is illegal. And annually, they must study the budget. So when we have the budget, when you have an opportunity from FACET to attend the budget review and discussions as we have them, it is important and critical that our members attend that, and must attend update seminars, CPD and CPD and continued professional education. We can go to the next slide. Yes, I will not delve much with these slides, but I will just quickly go through it. As you have seen, these slides, we were given this in terms of the, Mr. Mahomet gave it to us, showing exactly how the SBDC, the tax threshold of 78,150, and also which has gone up, and you would see that even for individuals. So if you are an SBD and your profit, I mean your taxable profit is below 360,000, you are indeed treated as an individual, which is a very good incentive for SMME. So if you have this knowledge, you are able to structure that the affairs of your small business. What it means here, if you are running a small entity, both you and the company have almost 160,000 that is available to you, where there is no tax that that you have to pay. In other words, if you receive 79,000 per annum as your taxable profit in a business and as an individual, that amount you receive it tax-free. In other words, if you divide that by 12, that will give you the amount that monthly you can receive tax-free. And that is information that is very important for a business advisor to inform your clients that anyone who earns in South Africa from the 1st of March in 2019, if you earn 6,583, you do not pay tax. Let me repeat that. If you earn per month 6,583 per month, that amount is given to you tax-free. So in structuring your clients' salary that they must draw, you have to understand and know all this. In other words, even with the company, if it is making this kind of profit monthly, this profit is tax-free, it will not be taxed. And so that is the information that we believe our members need to know and understand. And the rebate indeed has gone up a bit by from 14,067, and the going forward now is going to be 14,220. So if you divide that by 18%. If you divide 14,220, you divide it by 14%, it will, divided by 18%, it will give you that 79,000. So that is the rebate. It's a threshold. It's a threshold for the rebate that you can claim. So in other words, if you are going to be earning more than 79,000, you have an individual rebate that you will deduct of that 14,000. Then whatever that you earn thereafter will be taxable. And another which has got a small increment as well, it's subsistence allowance. For people who work out there, who are going out, the subsistence allowance is given to an employee. It's tax-free. It's not taxable. So it's advisable that we understand and know this amongst many other allowances that are there. This, by the way, is not everything that is there. It's if we go and do our research, we'll be able to get more. And subsistence allowance, incidental, the one that we had before, it's for meals, and then you have for incidental cost for whatever. This as well has been increased a little bit from 128 to 134. Can we go to the next slide? Can we go? Yes. PBO trust, other taxes in brief. Now, the focus above was mainly about income tax, VAT, and PAYE. Below is a list of other taxes that business advisors may have to deal with in the course of advising individuals and your businesses. Business advisors are advised to attend CPD workshops in respect of various tax topics that are not discussed regularly. So we cannot emphasize this more. Trusts are currently the main estate planning entity in South Africa. It is therefore important that business advisors must have a good understanding of taxation treatment for trusts. And this goes for all other PBOs and NPCs, not-for-profit companies, and in fact also for NPOs. It's very important that you understand various taxes, as we have seen also with the capital gains tax, that is treated differently for individuals, it's treated differently for companies, it's treated differently for even for trusts. So currently we know, and our people currently are starting to register trusts, and for you to advise them appropriately is to understand other taxes that are relevant in that structuring and planning of that particular trust or any other organization for that matter. So there's also transfer duty, and you've got estate duty. Now here it's when you sell assets, there's also limits as to up to how much there is going to be a transfer duty. And we also have a donations tax where we know that for individuals up to 100,000, it's tax-free, but the minute it exceeds, then it's going to be some 20% that, and the dividend, we have covered it so well. And we also have other taxes like a green tax, also known as carbon tax, which is also covered. I think we're going to have the next one, we're going to have the tax guide. If we can go to the next one. If we can go to the next one, the tax guide slides.
I will end my contribution.
No, great stuff. Thank you very much for your time and for helping us, sort of as an associate professional body, sort of we all work with sometimes with the same kind of clients. So thank you very much for your contribution, Mohammed, today, and for adding I see there's still a question or two outstanding around the trusts and so on that James was going to address, but maybe we can find another way of addressing those issues in the future. So if I may hand over to, I see Lesego is in the room, the administrator from BASA. We've got this segment after the hour of CPD allocated to talk about BASA updates and events coming up. I know there's an event in Cape Town this afternoon for BASA members, and I think for others too. I'm not sure Lesego will be able to tell us about that. And then we also have Septi Bukula available to tell us a bit more about the upcoming Enterprise Finance Forum, a really important event around financing of entrepreneurial businesses, small businesses, And so he'll be telling us a bit more about that. I think there's also a special offer, Lesego, if you maybe switch on your camera and we can unmute your voice feed so that we can also hear you. So you're unmuted, but your camera is still not on. There you are. So what's up at the IBASA office, Lesego? Welcome into the room.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Definitely an interesting discussion for today. As you know, money makes some things go around, not absolutely everything. So we're excited to have this discussion to assist not only business advisors, but the public with regards to what it means to have a budget. Because as you know, it does impact you, whether you want to be aware of it or not, it runs and impacts your business. What's key for me right now is obviously we have endorsed as IBASA an exciting forum happening in this month of March. That is the Enterprise Financing Forum. It also is there to assist a lot of people in the SMME space, business advising space, to know more about what is needed. So I'm actually not going to start with some of the BASA activities. I'd like to give the opportunity through to Septi. I know he is more than ready to explain about what the Enterprise Financing Forum is about, the benefits for IBASA members, as well as the public. So definitely over to you, Septi.
Lesego, thank you. Am I on?
Yes, we hear you well.
Yes, you're on.
Okay, cool.
It looks like
sorry.
you're a superstar, though. It looks like you're going to appear in front of an audience very soon.
Yeah, I'm actually attending a conference here. Mrs. Dlamini Zuma is speaking, so I've just...
Oops, on that note, it looks like the internet is again giving us... It looks like there's some internet issues here today with all of us. So, Lesego, it looks like you'll have the task of telling us about the forum end of the month and what IBASA members can benefit from.
Yes, definitely. Very much what we've discussed as IBASA is firstly endorsing the forum, not only because of its strategic nature, but finances are the bloodline of most businesses, whether small, medium, or corporate size. It's important that your finances are positive and they keep you going. One of the main reasons for us to actually endorse this conference is that South Africa needs to start speaking about how to finance businesses in general. We at IBASA have a survey that we are supporting. It's actually being sponsored through the Department of Small Business, and OSIBA Management is the one actually running with the research. And we would like our business advisors to please fill the business advisor survey and get 2 of their clients, SMME or any business client of theirs, to complete the survey. Submit before the 15th of March to our person at OSIBA by the name of Nkoti, all the completed surveys, and then you will automatically qualify for a free ticket. Note that numbers are limited. We have 50 free tickets on offer. So that is an instant value of 1,725 in your pocket, because that's the actual value of the conference. It is a superb conference for 2 days with excellent speakers who know about financing, who have insight into financing. So in terms of your business, you wouldn't want to miss out on this knowledge. And I believe it will benefit your client, because even your clients can stand the chance to even win this value of 1,725 and be able to participate in the conference over 2 days in Ekurhuleni. The only catch really is that obviously, if you do win a ticket, you just need to be able to make it to the Ekurhuleni conference center. So in terms of outside of Gauteng, you're also more than welcome to participate, just be able to get here. But I believe the people coming, the caliber of the discussion, the policy discussion that's going to be happening, you cannot miss this opportunity. It's going to be one of those ones that really change the way you look at financing and allow you to provide such good business advice. You can't miss it. Over in terms of other IBASA activities that are absolutely phenomenal, today we're in the Western Cape and we will be discussing issues of ESD. So if you don't know what ESD stands for, more reason to make it in the Western Cape. You are still able to attend. We can still assist you if you're that person who didn't know about it but would love to make it through. Just contact us here at the office on cpd@ibasa.org.za. Let me repeat that. You can either send an email to admin@ibasa.org.za for the Western Cape event happening today, or alternatively cpd@ibasa.org.za. Come find out more about ESD. Don't let it be an acronym that runs around and you don't know how your clients can benefit, or even yourself as a business advisor can know more. So we're excited. Those are two big events happening in March, and we are confident that it will help your business. If you don't know anything about it, do ask us about us. We are definitely open to talk to you about it. Yeah, thanks. That's about the big things happening at IBASA. There's definitely more. We met at Ekurhuleni. As you know, Ekurhuleni is in Gauteng, for those who are not familiar with some of the acronyms used by municipalities. And the exciting thing happening at Ekurhuleni is that we will definitely be going out to the district, making sure that IBASA members not only come to our discussions as district matters, but also the community can know that business advisors are not just there to give advice, but are instrumental in moving your business forward. So do contact the office to know about what's happening in Gauteng as well. We definitely have exciting news happening there as well. So a lot of information is happening at IBASA. Do come join us. Don't miss out. Definitely open to everybody.
Right.
Over to you, Chris.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Lesego. So admin@ibasa.org.za is also the email that you can use if you're not a member and you would like to join IBASA as the professional body that represents us. We've got Nick Sibanda and Septi Bukula in the room with us, both from OSIBA, who are the organizers of the Finance Forum, which is happening from the 28th of March, 28th and 29th of March, end of this month. Nick, I'm not sure if you'll be able to speak, but Septi, let's try again, because you disconnected there as you were starting to explain what is going to happen at this event and why business advisors should be attending.
Christoph, can you hear me now? Because I was kicked out and
yeah, we lost connection. Let's do this, Septi. We're going to disconnect your video.
Okay.
And we know at least we've got your voice. So we'll be looking at Nick representing you, but I don't see Nick having a microphone to speak to. So Nick will be your face and you'll be the voice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That'd be good. So are we good to go?
You can proceed, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Look, I mean, I think Lesego has done a phenomenal job in terms of explaining why we believe that IBASA should be there. So as I started saying before I got kicked off, it is really a policy forum. And we've partnered, as we always do, with the Department of Small Business Development. But I think the most exciting thing for us with this forum is that we have two really key industry players on board, and that being the Business Association of, the Banking Association of South Africa and the Financial Sector Transformation Council. And the reason they've come on board is that they too recognize, like we do, that the conversation around access to finance, which we all know is always a big and sometimes emotive conversation, is an important one. And how we've couched the forum is to say, look, there tends to be a lot of mudslinging about this issue. Government, saying, banks are not willing to finance, and, banks saying the government is making it difficult to finance. And so we said, okay, look, instead of throwing all this mud around the room, why don't we sit together and really face the issues head on? So that, we are engaged in a conversation that's constructive and is solution seeking instead of blame trading. Now, if you look at the program that we've put together, as I say, as a policy program, there's a lot of issues there that I really believe would be quite useful for business advisors, at least to be part of. One of the conversations that is shaping up to be quite a big conversation at this conference, at this forum, is a conversation on corporate enterprise and supply development. Of course, we're looking at it from a enterprise financing point of view, because there's a lot of money there available for small businesses. And, anecdotal evidence is showing that, that money is flowing, but it's not flowing, as much as everyone would like it to. It's flowing to a few individuals. It gets stuck in the system, and it's not reaching SMEs. And we really want to hear, because, you know, I mean, business advisors, we were chatting to Catalyst for Growth, which has got, you know, business advisors as well, and they're very excited about this. We want to position business advisors, people who deal with SMEs every day, to actually be at the nexus of that conversation, because they need to be at the nexus of the flow of that money. The majority of that money now is flowing into fund management companies. So,
and of course, the green color is the discouragement.
hello, Christoph.
Yeah, we're still here. We're listening to you very attentively.
Oh, sorry. I mean, there was another voice coming through, so I didn't know it was coming through from here. So there's just been a discussion on LinkedIn on this enterprise and supply development finance thing, and that discussion is showing me quite clearly that that's going to be one of the biggest discussions of the forum. So much so that we've actually had to extend the time that we've allocated to that one item. We're not extending all of them, but that one we're giving more time. I was chatting yesterday to Sabtia, and Sabtia says that the move, because we want to influence policy here in terms of how that money flows and how it reaches SMEs. And he was saying that there's now a move.
It looks like Septi's connection at the conference is not that great. And Nick, we do have voice for you.
I don't know how far that discussion has gone, but I really think that, you know, firstly, because you guys interact with SMEs on a daily basis, your voice would be important. But also, I think that that's a space, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted here, I don't need to tell you that. But we believe that's a space that business advisors should be involved in, because a lot of what's happening there is just, you know, repeat stuff, a lot of training, a lot of this, which is not really producing results. And we believe that the likes of BASA and its members are the kinds of people who can produce results with that money. Our forum seeks to influence the flow of the money, but once the money is cleared through policy and it flows, we're not going to be the ones who are making sure that it reaches the SMEs and produces impact. You are the ones. So that's why we really believe you should be in the room. And I think that the exchange that, Lesego so eloquently presented is just us asking you to help us with another study we're doing for the Department of Small Business Development. And I think it's a fair exchange. So that's why I'm going to leave it, Christoph.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Septi. So we'll release you to go and listen to the conference speakers and participate in that regard too. But perhaps, Nick, if you just want to come in and explain to us if we want to attend how we can do that. So let's see if we can get Nick into the room. You are unmuted, and maybe you could just switch your video on to Nick. But thanks, Septi, for us. You see Septi has left already. Nick, we had Nick on last time. Hi, Nick.
The population, let us look at the unemployment rate right at the top.
Yes, they are.
Black Africans sitting at 30.
You also at the conference.
2018 compared to where they were in 2000.
It looks like Nick's at the conference as well, and he can't hear us. But in any case, you can use that same email address to find more information around the conference, and hopefully, you know, sort of we can, with the increase the finance minister's promise in terms of data improvements and so on, we can be at conferences and connect easily into webinars too. So looking forward, next month you will get an invite again to the webinar for next month. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining, specifically Mohammed, for your really valuable contribution, as well as our well-known JMT, who has been giving us the perspective from that practical expectations of our small business clients that we work with in this webinar. The recording will be posted to the BASA website, so if you missed the bit that we got interrupted with, you'll be able to see it there. So have a great afternoon, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the month. Hope that many of you will be able to attend the conference, and that, yeah, those of you that are in Cape Town will be able to attend this afternoon at Old Mutual, where we have our event. Looking forward to connect with you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.